All right, everybody, I'm going to show you how to write a proper thesis statement. You would write a thesis statement as the first sentence for an analysis. If you've been assigned to write an analysis essay, you're going to want to construct a proper thesis statement. And the thesis statement acts as a roadmap, both for you and for your reader as well. So it's important to get it right. You don't have to write an analysis for me yet, but we are going to practice with the M&M Chrysler commercial now that we've all completed our timelines and we've participated in the discussion. You've really already broken this down. If I were to assign you to write an analysis essay, you could easily do it. But we just want to make sure that we get a thesis statement done correctly, and this is going to be your next assignment that you'll turn in. So after you watch this, tinker around with it yourself and then submit your thesis statement to the Dropbox. Okay, so there are 5 components to a thesis statement. There's the author and the text, and there's the concept, which is the big idea that you're breaking down. Then there are the techniques. These are those small things that the writer does, or in this case, the editor of the commercial. And then you've also got to have a really good academic verb when you're writing a thesis statement. If we were writing a thesis or statement or an analysis paper about literature, author and text is really easy. For the author, it might be William Shakespeare, and the text might be Hamlet. In our case, we're talking about a commercial, which is actually a text, right? It's a visual text, and you do kind of read it, right? So for these 2 components, we're just going to say it's Chrysler's, C-H-R-Y-S-L-E-R, Chrysler's M&M commercial. Okay? Now, the techniques that I want to focus on when I was watching it, what jumps out at me are the sounds, and there's plenty of things to choose from. So if I've stolen your big idea, so sorry, but the sounds jump out to me. So for example, the narrator's voice, that's one sound. Another sound is, well, the use of Eminem's song itself, right? And another thing that jumps out at me as far as the sounds is the use of the gospel choir, right? Kind of turns everything into, kind of ends on a spiritual note that almost like, buying this car brings you closer to God. That's one possible way of reading this, right? So all of these sounds combine to do something, at a very basic level. Your concept can be to sell automobiles, right? But you can make this a little bit more specific if you want. So, for example, I think that the sounds do more than just help to sell the automobile. I think the sounds work on an emotional level, right? So what I'm going to, if I were writing an analysis paper, I would be talking about how the sounds connect with the viewer on an emotional level and makes an emotional connection to the company, thereby making you more likely to buy their product. Okay, so my concept is going to be, it's an emotional connection that these 3 sounds create. They create that emotional connection that makes you much more likely to buy a vehicle from Chrysler if they do it right. So I've got everything that I need in order to construct my thesis statement except for my verb. I haven't picked out the right verb yet. And these are just 5 sample verbs. I'm going to put a document in the class that has just dozens upon dozens upon dozens of academic verbs that you can choose from. So let me erase all of this, and then let's now put it all together in a statement. And if we were writing an actual analysis, This would be the first sentence. And it serves, remember what I said, it serves as a roadmap for the reader, but it also serves as a roadmap for you so that you don't lose your way. So it's like almost like a contract between the reader and the writer. It's a contract. This is what I am going to be writing about, and therefore the reader is expecting to read about those things. All right. So I might just start off my thesis statement, putting all of these components into one statement like this. I don't want it that large. Let's take it down to 22. In Chrysler's M&M commercial, sounds such as the narrator's pretty voice, Eminem's song, and the gospel choir. Now, obviously, now is when I need a verb. And of these 5 that are up here, I could actually use evoke, because evoke works really well when you're talking about bringing forth emotions. So these sounds evoke an emotional response in the viewer. And I could stop it there. That would suffice. But I'm going to take it a little bit further. Those sounds evoke an emotional response in the viewer, thereby making it more likely, making the viewer more likely to purchase an automobile from this company. And that is a proficient thesis statement. It's got all of the main components. You've got the author and the text. You've got the author and the text right there. You've got the techniques here, the gritty voice, the song, the gospel choir. You've got your verb. And then you've got actually the main part of what this analysis would ultimately be about. Ultimately, the whole analysis is about this concept, that there's an emotional response in the viewer. How? Through these 3 techniques. That's basically how you write a thesis statement. Now it's your turn to pick out some techniques that you noticed. It might be symbolism, it might be visuals, it might be the use of Eminem's celebrity. There's a lot of patriotic symbols in there. There's some spiritual symbols in there. Write your own thesis statement, making sure you use these 5 components, and then post it in the Dropbox.